Hi, I'm here with Tara Nanda, VP of Addressable Strategy and Activation at KINESSO. Welcome, Tara.
Hi, Dan.
So tell me a little bit about your role. What does it mean to be a VP of Addressable Strategy and Activation?
So my role is essentially to drive the most conversions for my brand or for my client via programmatic advertising. And unfortunately, that means nothing to someone who's not in programmatic. So a good way to think about it is just to look at the advertising ecosystem, right? At the end of the day, everyone's trying to buy the most sought after ad slot to make sure your ads are visible, they're surrounded by content that complements your brand, you're getting in front of people that you want to get in front of, and it's a visible ad, right? There's two ways to achieve buying that ad slot. There is a direct way and there's a programmatic way. When you buy directly, you're essentially negotiating deals with every single partner, right? So if I want my ad to run on allrecipes.com, I have to go negotiate with them, right? I figure out what my cost is, a fixed time frame. Now if I want my ad to run on Hulu, I have to go have that conversation again. It's extremely manual and time consuming, and it's not necessarily data driven. On the other side of it is programmatic, which is my world. Now with programmatic, ad slots are being bought and sold in real time, right? So your focus is not necessarily negotiating deals with All Recipes or Hulu. It's to identify your audience, to make sure that everything you do is audience driven, and that's essentially how you buy, right? So I'm buying against those that I deem important to reach, and I'm buying across the open web. So I'm not concerned where they are consuming their content. I'm just concerned that this person is relevant to my brand. Now, programmatic and addressable are the same side of the coin, right? Addressable is simply the why, whereas programmatic is the how. So that's really what the addressable part of my role is, and the strategy versus activation, the strategy is exactly that, right? Trying to understand who the right audience is, where do I reach them, what messaging do I reach them with, which partners are the best partners to use here. On the activation side, you want to make sure that you understand the latest tech, the latest platforms, the latest measurement options to ensure that the way you activate your campaign actually complements the strategy we're trying to achieve. So that is my role.
Perfect. Yeah, and the industry has definitely been changing a lot with how people consume content, what they're watching, what they're reading. What are some of the big picture changes you've seen, and how has that kind of affected your career and the trajectory of your role?
So some of the big changes, it's what everyone's felt, right? Traditional media is no longer a thing, well, for this generation. TV and print are slowly dying out. Digital is where everyone is, whether that's social, whether that's streaming. Everyone is mobile first now. Video is the key format that everyone prefers. And with everyone being digital and mobile first, there's so much data out there. So everything is that much more targeted to you and your experience. And then you layer on AI, and again, it's that much more curation. So content now is very different the way you would experience it versus how I would experience it online. And interestingly enough, my career has followed a similar trajectory because I started at NBC Universal, which is predominantly a traditional media company, even though, of course, they're playing in the digital space now. And I was on the digital inventory team at the time. And it was very interesting because it was a lot about, okay, how do we package digital as added value with the linear buy? How do you talk about digital under the lens of linear? Programmatic was barely a term that anyone even used at the time because it was slowly coming about, right? So after a few years at NBC, I actually wanted to shift focus into data. So I ended up moving to Essence Magazine because Time Inc. and Meredith merged and Essence actually bought themselves out so they could be independently owned. But that meant they had to build digital from scratch. So that was my opportunity to really lean into not only data, right? Rev ops, business ops, ad ops. So it was a very interesting time, but I think the biggest achievement coming out of that stint was building their data management platform. After that, I ended up here at KINESSO, right? Where you're navigating all of that at the same time. You're navigating inventory, data, measurement, pricing, strategy, activation. So it's been exciting. I'm glad this is where I am right now because every day is honestly different. And it's exciting because there's so much to lean into depending on your interest. And I think that's why it's an exciting role to be in.
Yep. And you mentioned video being kind of the focus and a forefront of a lot of campaigns. It seems we've heard from other senior media executives around CTV some hesitation with that format. Do you see any hesitation? And if so, what was the root cause of that?
I don't think it's hesitation, right? Because even our clients, they are mostly on streaming now. So I think they're very much aware that content consumption habits have shifted, right? But especially I work on the pharma industry, so in my world, it's very hard for clients to discount the success that linear has had in the past, which is fair, right? And also, again, in pharma, you need to be able to cast a wide net, and TV does that, and the reach is undeniable. So I don't think it's hesitation with CTV. I think we're slowly seeing dollars shift there year over year. I think it's just a slower adoption than what we expected.
Are there any trends out there that is ramping up and streamlining the CTV adoption, whether it's the streaming services having more access to either live sports or tentpole events? What could that be driving more adoption in the CTV space?
I think so. I think it's also these big names now, right? Monetizing their content, the Amazons and Netflix. It's putting a lot of trust, I think, in clients that if these big players are opening up their inventory programmatically, they trust this ecosystem, so maybe we should as well. But I also think the resolution on measurement is getting that much stronger, and that's helping them understand where to funnel their dollars.
Yeah, and in terms of converged programmatic, where have you seen kind of the strengths and, again, limitations with running programmatic?
I don't think they're constraints necessarily, right? I think it still comes down to the data, because as long as you can understand how programmatic is playing its role, right? Even when you think about linear and CTV together, having the reports that show you that, these are the households that you oversaturated with TV can inform you as an advertiser that maybe I should stop reaching these people, or maybe I send them another message that continues the conversation with them, right? So it's the data that's helping everyone frame CTV in this whole omni-channel flow. And like I said, we're seeing dollars shift more and more year over year. So I think as CTV gets a little bit more robust with what they can pull out of their ecosystem in terms of measurement, we're going to see more dollars flow there.
Perfect. So let's transition to everyone's favorite topic, data. With so many options out there, ID graphs, first-party data, where have you seen kind of the most effective way to provide scale, but also work with partners on data?
So again, it depends on the type of industry you're in, right? And bringing it back to pharma, first-party data is extremely scarce in our industry. And if you have first-party data, then it is the core of your strategy, right? But to your point, scale is not something that you use first-party data for. So you have to complement it depending on what your objective is. And at KINESSO, we actually audit our partners every single year because offerings change. Like I said, this industry changes every single day. So your data offerings change almost every single day. Privacy laws are coming out every day, which also pivots how data partners segment, right? So we need to keep a pulse on the industry to make sure that we're able to decide which partner is best for the strategy we're trying to implement. So I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all.
And so when it comes to clean rooms as well, how are you working with partners in clean rooms? Is it something that is a focus and working for your team so far?
Clean rooms at the moment are mostly leveraged for insights, right? Activation, there are products and partners out there that offer, whether it's audience matching in a clean room, so then now you're not activating with any type of identifier, right? It's a little bit more of a contextual feel to it. So there are partners out there with these offerings, but currently I think insights is where clean rooms are really at play. And it even goes back to first-party data, right? Because now you have instances like clean rooms where you can port your first-party data and add more enrichment to your own data points, right? So there's different use cases of clean rooms. I don't think it has been fully utilized yet across the industry, so I think there's a lot more to come over the next few years.
Perfect. And to finish it all off, how would you say the best way for buyers and sellers to work together and collaborate to build a better, more efficient ecosystem when it comes to data sharing?
It's interesting. On the programmatic side, especially being at the agency, you realize very fast that you're the conduit between the buy side and the sell side, and you're the one keeping both sides abreast of what's happening with the other side. And there's already some collaboration, right? Because they both function with the same standardization that the IAB has rolled out, which is great. They both use the same verification partners, whether that's IAS, Double Verify, or other third-party partners. So in a sense, they are collaborating in terms of what is the standard in digital. But I think there's a lot more to come, right? Data clean rooms, you need both sides feeding into it. It's not the agency who's going to be in those clean rooms. All of these privacy laws, you need the buy side and sell side to come together to make sure that they're really formulating what these laws mean to us in the industry, right? And how we should be pivoting. So there is some collaboration. There's a lot more, I think, to come. And I think it's going to be forced upon them because of the new laws that are coming out.
Perfect. This has been great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Dan.